Okay, being 5:30 p.m., I will open the Town of Bourne Board of Health meeting for September 10th, 2025. This meeting is being held in a hybrid format, so folks can participate on Zoom remotely if they would like to. The Zoom chat will not be monitored. Participants who wish to speak must raise the hand icon until the chair asks them to unmute. Note this meeting is being televised and recorded by Bourne Community TV for replay. If anyone in the audience is also recording or videotaping, they need to acknowledge such at this time. All items within the meeting agenda are subject to deliberation and votes by the Board of Health. Is anybody recording?
Owen from the Bourne Enterprise said he was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so he's in attendance remotely. Okay, thank you. If anyone from the public wishes to access the meeting remotely, they can do so by clicking the Zoom link or by calling the following conference line on their phone and using the Zoom meeting ID and password below. The dial-in number is 309-205-3325. The meeting ID is 848-0862-6866, and the password is 897944. First item on the agenda is attendance, and Margaret Rielli.
Here.
Dusty Meyer.
Here.
Miguel Prieto.
Here.
Don Ellis.
Here.
Bob Collette here. Item number 2, 6 Massasoit Ave, John Briscoe and Rhonda Briscoe, trustees, failure to upgrade failed septic system per 310 CMR 15.000, Title 5. Mr. Briscoe, Mr. and Mrs. Briscoe here.
Chuck Rowland, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Chuck Rowland, Cape and Islands Engineering. I'm here attending for Mr. Briscoe of 6 Massasoit. I represented my client for a site redevelopment. It was quite a while ago now, not quite a while ago, I believe it was last year. And he's been working on architectural plans for a while. He was working with a modular home company, and as he was getting ready to finalize plans with the modular home company, they decided that the site would not really work well for a modular home because of construction access. There really was no place to set up a crane for the modular home, and just general site constraints because of the size of the lot and the proximity of the neighbors and how narrow the road was. So he's figured out that he has to go with typical traditional stick construction. And so he actually, if I may, I'm going to share my screen if I can. Is that okay?
Okay, sure.
So I just wanted to show that, oh, sharing's not turned on.
Should be allowed
Oh,
to.
now it is. So I just wanted to show that he actually does have a, let me know when this pops up.
There it is.
So he does have a signed proposal with an architect for this property. So he is working forward, and as of right now, he has just standard floor plans. So I don't want you to think that he is ignoring anything or ignoring the letter that he received to attend tonight. He's working towards it, and he wants to move forward as quickly as possible. He has hit some obstacles, both with site constraints, design, and then with the updated regulations as it pertains to flood code. So he'll have some other design constraints moving forward with that. But he is moving forward in good faith towards redeveloping the property and upgrading the septic. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Why haven't those plans been submitted to our office?
For an application,
Yeah.
because they're not complete, they're not construction documents, and he needs to.
Okay.
So if you would like, in good faith, I've asked him if he could find a contractor to pull a septic permit, because in my opinion, he does not need construction documents to pull a septic septic permit. He just needs a septic installer to do that. So if this board would like, I will make sure I push him to pull that permit just to show that we are moving in the right direction.
Is the property currently inhabited?
I'm not 100% sure if anyone's living there or not.
And where is the location of, where's Massasoit Ave? Is that on?
South of Circuit Ave.
That's Circuit Ave, yeah. So I
It's
thought-
the dead-end street, if you bear right down Circuit Ave.
Yeah, yeah.
The permit we pulled had a lot of variance, or the variance requests we had several variances, just because of how tight the site was. It's definitely not the easiest site to redevelop.
Okay.
So when you're talking about a modular, was this going to be in a modular addition? Or are they building an addition, rebuilding the house, raise and rebuild? This is not really
So in
clear.
2024, when they came before the board, it was a raise rebuild.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he still plans on doing that. And he's has an architect involved and wants to proceed in that direction.
Have they come up with a time frame to get us the information?
I asked him that, and right now he's waiting on his architect, and that's all I can really tell you. That's all the real information I have.
So there's no timelines on the drawings being available? Is that correct?
Yeah, not to my knowledge.
I mean, I'm just gonna, for the board, I'm gonna state the facts. The facts are that this location has a failed septic, meaning a cesspool, for a decade. And this has not been addressed. I need to know if someone's living there, because otherwise they're actually polluting the estuaries there, which is not really fair for the rest of the community. And if they're living there, we need to have something within 90 days. Otherwise, we'll move to disciplinary action. So unless you are able to provide us with that answer, well, I just think that we should have a continuance until the next meeting so you can give us that information. And that will give the owner time to actually pull the permit or present us with something in good faith that this is being addressed, but it's been over 10 years.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. When's your next meeting?
The 27th, I believe.
Um,
24th, rather?
I like the 24th more.
Yeah, better than a Saturday.
I'm happy to attend that. And so you're looking for whether someone is living there?
And
And then-
if they
and
are,
then-
then we have to approve this and just making a comment, have to make a motion for a continuance, but if that's the case, and they're living there, so we need to have a pull permit to start building the septic within 90 days.
I will definitely request that he gets a permit pulled for that.
So I'll open up to the rest of the board for any comments before I make a motion.
Any other comments?
Yeah, and
Discussion.
also along with that, I would, in good faith, provide a timeline with that
90
presentation.
days.
That would be good, I believe. And fair to both sides, I think, in this matter. That's it.
And so you'd like a timeline for, when we think we'd be pulling building permits and when we think we'd start construction?
For the septic.
For the septic.
Right, for the
correct.
septic, at least.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion to make a continuance on 6 Massasoit Avenue for John Briscoe and Rhonda Briscoe, the trustees' failure to upgrade a failed septic system. That would like to know if the property is being inhabited now, and if it is, would like to have permit and paperwork pulled within 90 days that this is gonna be addressed. And if it is not being inhabited, then we'd like to have a timeline of when this is gonna be completed, since this has been more than 10 years since this was notified to them.
12 years, yeah, to be more precise.
Second?
Okay. Anyone else?
Second.
Okay. Aye. Bob Colette, aye.
Aye.
Margaret.
Thank you, Chuck.
Okay.
Great, thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you. Okay. Agenda item number 3, 1290 County Road, Edward A. Ganga and Kerry J. Holland. Failure to upgrade failed septic system per 310 CMR 15.000, Title 5. Anybody here to represent? Yes. Okay. Yep, sure. Please state your name and,
Hi, I'm Carrie Holland, property owner of 1290 County. My husband Ed Vienga's on the line.
okay.
So we purchased the property, I think, January 2023. We had a neighbor who was ill going into rehab and purchased the property directly from her. It had failed Title V inspection, so we initially started doing perk tests. I think we have 2 successful perk tests for the property. We've gone through a few designers for the property, and because of the property design, it's a rectangle, so septic can go here or here, which then pushes you into addition can go in the opposite sort of square. We've talked to a number of builders. We've decided not to raise the property, but to renovate the property. And then depending on the septic, and then I think we hit a hiccup with the new septic requirements. There is a wetland in the front. It's part of the brook system that drains Handy's bogs. So that's considered a seasonal wetland or temporary wetland. So we also need to make sure we have the right setbacks from the wetland, and that also would help us figure out if we go in the back corner in the driveway or in the front of the house for the septic. So we have been juggling different designs. I think we have a new architect, and I think we're actually pretty close on design now. We've also been working with Colley Engineering and have an agreement with them to do the septic site plan. We've also worked with Valeri who's agreed to do the install once we get everything sort of figured out. And I think we're really close. We have a design we like, finally. And are just sorting to make sure we have the right setbacks from the neighbors. It's my parents own the house next door, and so if we need an easement or to adjust the prop line, their plot's oversized. So we've also been in discussion with the lawyers down at Town Hall to figure out if we need to do any plot line adjustment to make sure we're meeting all of our setbacks. I have and the house is uninhabited. We haven't been living in there. You can look at the water and electricity bills. Most of the time the water's off. And yeah, I have plans. I have contracts with architects and Colley and a builder in mind, but no signed contract with the builder just yet until we get the architect plan set up. So happy to take any questions. Or Ed, I don't know if you have anything to add as well.
Sir, Mr. Fienga, any comments to add to that, sir?
He's still muted, so if he's
Okay.
speaking, he's.
He's
Oh,
muted.
there he is.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
I'm here now.
Thank
Nothing to add to what Carrie has said, other than, although it's not inhabited, we are maintaining the property. It's not an eyesore or anything along those lines. But just the combination of wetlands, conservation area, property lines, and required setbacks has really sort of funneled us into a very strict design. The home being a little bit older definitely has some issues on the inside that need to be fixed. And so because of all the constraints on the site and with the property, it has sort of dragged on a lot longer than either Carrie or I would like as well. But I feel like we're in a very good place now, and with a good architect and designer, and are ready to get construction-ready designs to the builder we've been working with, as Carrie said. Over.
Okay, thank you. Board, any members of the board, any comments, questions? Okay. Caitlin, any suggestions on this one, or?
With the home unoccupied, we're not worried about any environmental contamination right now, and it looks like they're working towards their application process. So, I mean, I don't know if you want to give a deadline of an application, for, just to get the septic system, either if it has to come before the board for variances or not, that might just, elongate the process. So, do we want to see, a preliminary plan within 6 months, or a board submission within 6 months, something like that?
Yep.
6 months.
Or an application within 60 days, and do we have?
If they're currently, if Quality Site Services is currently working on that, they could potentially have the application in, and if it needed board hearing, that could be extended, depending on availability.
Yeah, and,
One
okay.
question. So we've been told by a number of builders not to put the septic in before we do the build. Is that standard guidance, or?
If the components aren't gonna be H20, then it's not recommended, because you're gonna have
Like heavy
vehicles
equipment
and
driving over?
all over that
Yeah.
area, yeah. But you could definitely get it all approved beforehand, so you're ready to go once
Oh, okay.
that is finished, yep. Mm-hmm.
Would you submit the plans about the same time as you're submitting the building plans?
That could be, yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
Obviously, like you say, you gotta know what you're gonna build.
Yep.
To make the,
Mhm.
so when you get the building plans ready,
Okay.
then I would say, then you would, you're getting ready to build, then submit your application for a septic.
So building plan and septic at the same time? Okay.
So I don't know if the board tonight wants to, in this instance, grant an extension on her, the 2-year deadline for a Title V, failed Title V report. If you want to grant an extension for an additional 1 year, say. And then if they don't come, if they're not ready to do that, then they just come and ask for an extension again.
Mm-hmm.
If the home is remaining uninhabited.
So they get 2 years, but wasn't initially found to be in failure on October 20th, 2022?
Yep, so you could extend the timeline for completion until October 20th, 2027.
Okay. All right.
Where are we, 2026? What year
We're
is
done
it?
by then. Kids will kill me if we're not done by then.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, anybody care to make a motion? Or are there any other questions or discussion?
Well, I'm just gonna say, I find reasonable what she's saying, but I haven't heard anybody else say if you think it is or not before I make a motion. I'll be happy to make a
Yeah,
motion.
it's sort of standard procedure in these cases. Yeah.
All right, so I make a motion on 1290 County Road, Edgar and Carrie, Edgar Fieng and Carrie Holland on the septic status. I make a motion to extend the, what do you call it, waiver now? The wait period for a year until they can submit the plans for the building and the septic system.
Okay.
As long as it's not habited.
Okay, that's the part that's,
All right, do we want an application within 60 days, like, or? No? Up to you.
I suggest that the application would come along with at the time of, when the building plans are just about finalized, and they're getting ready to submit those.
Right. That was what, so. How long, so this.
So you said a year?
Yeah.
Yes.
For the completion, right? Or for the, no.
He
For the
said-
application, because right now, there's no building, is that correct, ma'am?
yeah.
Existing.
There's a 16, well, all right, so that, I will make that contingent. So as long as that is not inhabited, we can extend the permit, the waiver for a year.
All right. Any questions on the, or comments on the motion? Okay. Good. Don?
Second.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Margaret? Yes. Bob? Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, you're all set, Carrie. Thank you. You got an extension until.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming in. Okay. All right. So, number 4 on the agenda is a public hearing to propose new Bourne Board of Health regulations requiring upgrades to best available nitrogen-reducing technology in natural resource area and nitrogen-sensitive areas pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 111, Section 31. Regulation to include requiring upgrades to best available nitrogen-reducing technology for all new construction and increases in flow. Okay. So I'll now call to order the public hearing to hold discussion on a proposed local Board of Health regulation titled Regulation Requiring Upgrades to Best Available Nitrogen-Reducing Technology in Natural Resource Area, Nitrogen-Sensitive Areas, and to receive further public comment on said regulation. This regulation is being proposed in accordance with the Board's authority under Mass General Law, Chapter 111, Section 31, and is intended to protect public health and local water quality by reducing nitrogen loading from on-site septic systems in sensitive areas. If changes are needed, the hearing will be continued to a date certain rather than closed tonight. The full text of the proposed regulation has been made available to the public on the Health Department website and at the Health Department office at Town Hall. Written public comment were accepted through Friday, September 5th. However, no written public comment was submitted during that time. First, I'll recognize the Health Director to briefly summarize the proposed regulation, and then we will open the floor to verbal public comment, including both in-person and remote participants. If you are joining us via Zoom, please use the raise hand function to indicate that you'd like to be heard. We will call on participants in order and ask that you state your name and address for the record before offering your comments. A couple ground rules. We ask that all speakers keep comments respectful and concise, avoid interrupting others, and limit initial comments to 3 minutes, time permitting, to allow all voices to be heard. After we receive public comment, the board will have the opportunity to ask questions, deliberate, and determine the next steps regarding the regulation. Caitlin, would you like to give a brief synopsis of the proposed reg?
All right, so this was heard before the board back in June 25th. We discussed requiring best available nitrogen-reducing technology for all new construction and increases of flow in these nitrogen-sensitive areas as defined by Mass DEP. At that time, we heard some feedback from the board members and a couple comments, specifically from the board members. You guys were worried about fairness of requiring banner installations if sewer connections become available later on. So we revised the draft regulation to include that language in section 4D, allowing the board to grant extensions when sewer becomes available as with other viable alternatives. This provision was intended to protect homeowners' investments while still meeting nitrogen reduction goals and environmental health. So any comments on what we're at so far from the public?
Okay. Is there anybody on the Zoom call that would like to make a comment, or anybody in the audience? Zach, please step up, state your name, and
For the record, Zach Basinski, professional engineer, Bracken Engineering. Hello, everyone. I think this is going to be a great thing for the environment going forwards, but I think there's going to be a lot of learning curves as we go through this. Spent last week down in Falmouth listening to the residents down there talk about some of their concerns with the ban-out systems, and then just from our side as professional engineers. One is just the overall testing of these systems. They are testing at the testing facility. It's a controlled environment, getting it down. There are situations in the real world that we're not going to hit what the target limits are. And the Falmouth regulations do have provisions in them that talk about testing over a 2-year period. They give you some leeway in the regulations that if it's over 25% greater than the target limits, you have the ability to go in and talk with the agent and work with the wastewater operator on what's causing these issues with it. So I think that's something that should probably be looked at and put into the regulations. And from a designer standpoint, with these IA septic systems, a lot of this is how they use it and the homeowner uses it. A lot of homeowners don't understand what a regular septic system is and what they can put down into a septic system versus a sewer system. And then these systems are very finicky. If you pour a gallon of milk into them, it's going to mess up the whole system. You're not going to get the right testing. If you're having a seasonal house usage versus a year-round house usage, it's going to have a lot of testing issues with it. So the man-out systems are great, but there are going to be a lot of concerns when it comes from a testing standpoint that I see that we're going to be having to work through with operators. And honestly, there's a lot of operators in the area that I don't know if there's going to be enough operators to handle all this between the town of Bourne, Falmouth, and the rest of the things on the Cape. So that's just another big concern, that if these regulations go into effect, there's going to be a lot of back and forth with this in the community. So just wanted to bring that to the attention. There was another question here, the pilot. So best available technologies, one of the concerns as a designer that we have is these are usually general use systems we put in. They're equivalent to the Title V systems that are out there. They've gone through the testing, the state's given the testing to it. If people put in a pilot system and for some reason the state pulls that system away, are these people going to have to then upgrade their system, or what's the testing requirements going to be inside the town for them to maintain that system? A lot of these septics come with an extreme cost behind them. And if they're not testing, or the state removes that pilot or doesn't move them into the general provision, what happens to these systems that went in, the homeowners that put them in? So that's another concern that from a designer standpoint, I have to be upfront with a lot of these homeowners. I've seen a lot of technology, and I explain to the homeowners that you're taking a risk with the pilot, and if the Board of Health has the right to ask the person to update this, they get forced into a general use system. So, and that's why you see a lot of microfash, you see the Sepitechs, because they've gone through the testing, the state's given them the approval. But now with these pilot systems, I know that they're coming out with better systems and they're getting down, but they haven't gotten their pilot approval to the next level up to general to give that certification or comfort level to the homeowner and to a designer with it. Because the designer's taking on a lot of liability with this afterwards when back to it. So that's just something I have to legally work into my contracts with everybody and the homeowners with this up front, and give the homeowners a lot of educational background and training and what these systems are. So just a little context too, I'm also a professional engineer, but I've gone through the state's wastewater training program. So I'm also a grade 4 wastewater operator. So I'm certified to actually go out and do the testing of these systems. It's not easy to test these systems, and it's not easy to get a operator to test them right, test them correctly, get the information in, get the labs to get everything back in a timely fashion. So there are a lot of issues along the supply chain or the chain of title when we take these samples that lead to these issues. So there's just a lot of different variables when we're going forwards with these. So when you're seeing these results come in, just be aware that they might be working or they might not be working for various reasons. So that's my 2 cents.
Thanks, Zach. Great information. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? Comments, public comments? Any board members with any comments, questions?
Yes.
Miguel?
Yes. All right. So with the last time we had this meeting, and I believe Ms. Mastrangelo came and she makes some suggestions based on the town applying to get the waiver. That was finally submitted, so it means approved. It means that the state does not require the town to force residents to get a best available nitrogen reduction technology on their septics. Is that correct?
Is that, I'm not sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
the NOI was submitted, so that put a pause on the requirements for all people within the watershed to
Right.
upgrade, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my main concern, and I'm glad you brought that up and not me, is number one is the cost. The maintenance of the system, not just the initial cost, which is quite substantial, but the maintenance for it. And we're saying new construction, or we're just thinking about people upgrading. But what if we have a storm surge and people get, if people get damage to their homes that needs to be repaired? And are they gonna be forced to upgrade to one of these new systems? You know, and then it means that the only people that will be allowed to come into the town are people with substantial means means to afford this kind of system. And so, you know, we're really going against what the town is going, which is going through a sewer system by implementing this. So I have my serious concerns about passing the regulation as is.
So the town, the town hasn't decided that they're going a sewer system route at all.
So I believe, and Margaret can mention that was the consensus, that the plan was eventually.
It was a recommendation. It was a recommendation that a lot of people, so, but that's about as far as we.
There is no-
Because the public requested that, right, in the hearing?
Pardon me?
The public requested that.
Some of the public, but it was a recommendation from the wastewater advisory committee to to be updated. The comprehensive wastewater management plan, the original draft that we were, at least the original that I saw this year, was a draft that the first option would be IA systems to address nitrogen concerns, here in town. But there was some feedback that some people thought, no, they would prefer sewer. And then the wastewater advisory committee just agreed and said that they were going to recommend that it be changed, that the plan be changed so that the primary option would be sewer, that we would work towards sewer. And so it was a recommendation that was presented to the.
And that triggered the application for the waiver.
No, that
No?
did.
Otherwise,
and
why
the
would
notice
we
of
apply for
intent
that?
is it just says that we intend to submit an application. We haven't done it yet, and the application will include a plan that hasn't been finalized
Right.
yet. So right now, we're talking about people wanting sewer to be the main, but it's all, still a lot of
It's up in
talk.
the air.
And
Okay.
so, yeah, it's really,
Now,
does that make sense?
it makes sense, but just since we have the representation for a Board of Selectmen, although she came not as a Board of Selectmen, she said she came as a member of the community, but she made that recommendation that we don't mention. I just think that we're going at odds with what the selectmen chose to do. And, and I'm just gonna give you an example. As a physician, I see medical studies on what medications or interventions can do on petri dishes or, control environments, but that's not what we see in real life. And
Yeah.
the comments that Zach made, I mean, they're really eye-opening and, like mentioning, I don't pour milk because I don't drink milk, but, I probably pour other stuff that goes into my septic system. And so what are they gonna do with that? And so it brings, up a lot of questions and concerns. So unless we put that in writing, I just don't feel very comfortable with this, particularly with if there's something happens, there's a storm surge, or something happens and there's destruction or damage to the homes that need to be repaired, it's gonna trigger an upgrade automatically to a barn system, and then we're gonna force people to sell their homes because they can afford that. I don't think that's fair.
I mean, they would have to replace it anyway, right? If this is the statewide, is this the statewide minimum standard or something beyond that?
If the town doesn't have a watershed permit, correct, yes.
Yeah. So then so we're sort of forced into adopting this because this is the minimum standard.
That was paused, let's put on a pause.
It's paused, but how long is the
So
pause
why are
for?
we gonna do that now and not wait until that pause is removed, or if we have a clear way on how to proceed?
Yeah.
Unless we put that in writing, that if there's existing residents that they're making upgrades secondary to damage for whatever. And, you know, they're not forced to. I mean, this is the thing, a lot of my patients are my neighbors, and
Yeah.
a lot of them are on Social Security. They told me if I were forced to do this, we just will have to sell and move. We don't think it's fair, so I'm just voicing their concerns.
No, that's great. This is why we have a board and not one person making the decisions, right? And everybody brings a lot of information to the table, that's great. So what would be other options in the, you know, if we chose not to move forward with this, where would that leave us? Or
Well,
could
we can
continue-
amend that even
We can amend
more.
it, and we could
Yeah.
continue it, but, yeah. If, any other questions or just comments, Zach?
Katie, is it 3 years you guys have until you have to have the watershed plan?
I think it's 2 years
2
before we have to
years.
submit the watershed plan, yeah.
Yes.
Right, I mean, I do think the pilot programs, they are getting the systems in there. If these systems do go forwards and they become general use, I think it's a better argument at that point. I think Miguel brings up a great thing about the storm surge and all that. I think that is something that needs to be implemented into this. I mean, if somebody has a fire in their house or a small fire, they need an occupancy, they move out, they have to repair it. Is that gonna require them to upgrade because of an electrical fire, something that was out of their control? Excuse me. The other concern that I have too is some of these NSA areas, people have already recently put stuff in that are microfasts or the general use right now.
Right.
And let's say they want to do another addition, they did it as a repair, new person buys the house, they want to put in, now they're going to be forced to take all that microfast stuff out. Is there going to be a waiver provision to maintain something that's already
Right.
nitrogen reduction, it's already improved, it's over it. So I do think there are some questions that still need to be answered, and I don't think the board needs to make a decision now, because you still have 2 years before it's a requirement. I do think it needs some time to talk about some of this going forward. And, I mean, I got another project in Dennis. We went out, we were hired to do a septic upgrade for a sale of a transfer, put a conventional septic system in. We went out, did the perk, did the plan, we submitted the plan to the town, only to find, as a draft review, excuse me, to only find out 6 days before the Board of Health changed the regulation, but it prohibited anybody from upgrading a septic system because they're in an approved sewer area. So now this poor person that bought the house can't upgrade their septic, they have a failed Title V septic system, but they have to wait till they connect to the sewer, and the town's telling them it's 2 to 3 years. So this person, I have to go to the Board of Health tomorrow night and have a conversation with them about it, like, this person has to wait 2 to 3 years. So you're gonna put these regulations into place, but there are still a lot of hiccups us engineers are trying to figure out and vet out, how do we explain this to the client up front, and how do we give them the knowledge going in when they're looking at properties, buying properties, and reinvesting it. How can people stay in their homes with the septic stuff too? I know the state wants us to do it, and it's in the best interest, but I still think there's a lot of unanswered questions from a floodplain, from our Title V zoning standpoints. We also had ADUs that we're still trying to get out there. I mean, a lot of people think they have by right because of the zoning stuff that the governor said that they can put an ADU on. Call me up and I have to tell them that you can't build an ADU because of the Board of Health regulations or conservation regulations right now. And those are still all in flux at the moment too. And like new construction requirements, you could live in a house that's in this. One of the questions that came up is if you build a new ADU and you need an occupancy permit, upgrade your septic. Or if you're adding a ADU into an existing home that doesn't require an occupancy permit, do you have to upgrade your septic? Do you have to put one of these banners in? You could take a room out, put it into an ADU, and the flow hasn't changed on the lot line. Why is that fair to one person and not fair to another person on the properties? A lot of these regulations have to be looked at site specific, and it's tough.
Okay, thanks, that's great, and again, more
Well,
great
there's a lot of
information.
information.
Maybe, maybe we could continue the discussion, the hearing at some point, and during the interim, maybe compile a list of what mitigating circumstances might preclude the implementation of these, the required implementation of these regulations, and then take that into consideration as we further discuss this. I don't think we're in my opinion is we're not prepared to vote on this tonight, given the information that you've shared with us and that Miguel has, the concerns that Miguel has brought up. And so, but someone else might have a different opinion about that. But it would be my suggestion to continue it and gather the information that I suggested and that anybody else might require.
Yeah, I believe that great point's been brought up, especially the implementation of it. You know, with the adequacy of testing firms and the ability of testing firms. All these things I think we need to have a better handle on, better awareness, so that we're moving forward with something that is a decision that is right and can be actually implemented. So
Right.
that's a concern I have, which is a very good point that you brought up tonight, so thank you for bringing that forward. So I agree with the continuing.
Darcy, anything?
No, this whole thing is scary,
Yeah,
to be honest with you.
yeah.
And there's a small group within the town who wish to go with a station, with a pumping station and everything,
Yeah,
treatment plant.
yeah.
And I understand what they're telling me, and I did my own checking. It's cheaper to put in, you know, a new system, not a new system, excuse me, into a town-wide system in the long run, 30 years, they figure, than it is to put an IA system in that in 5 years after you spent the 40,000, you gotta spend even more now.
Yeah.
You know, it's, the people have to get involved in this.
Right.
And we can't make decisions for the whole town until you get feedback. And,
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's unfortunate we don't have other, more folks chiming in on this, from a resident's perspective, because they're not, we all know, there are no cookie cutter systems, right? Everybody's is different. You can go right down any street in town, and everybody's got different systems in their backyard, front yard, whatever it happens to be. And, yeah, so
I mean, I'm really glad, as everyone else has said, to hear this about real-life experience with the IA systems and how they're working. Been hearing mixed results. Some sound like they're pretty good, and and that they definitely are an improvement over the conventional Title V. But also hearing that they don't always work out that way because of, like you said, a need for education, difficulty. I also am concerned about our resource, the nitrogen-sensitive areas, the watersheds, just having no protection. So I definitely agree that we should talk about this more. I'd like to learn more about, about what are our options to be able to put in place some protections, because it's going to take a while. I mean, I definitely am more, from what I've heard, more leaning towards sewer, but not everyone is going to be able to be hooked up to sewer.
right.
And there'll be reasons for different, so I think this is a very complex issue. And as all this plays out, as we wait to get the decisions made, and then when the decision gets made of what we're going to do, when the plan, it's going to be years for it to be implemented. And, like 2 years, okay, we come up with a plan, it gets accepted. Then it's going to, let's say we do go with sewer. Well, how long is it going to take to have that infrastructure put in place? And it's going to take 15, 20 years. It's going to, be probably a plan for implementation is going to be written out as well. Done in these years in this area. And okay, so while that's going on, some of our, very sensitive and endangered areas people are going to be able to come in and build without necessarily any protection, for those areas. And I'm concerned about that too. So I think we need to figure out a way maybe to go on discussing and seeing if some of these IA systems are the best ones. Can we, and again, this is, we can continue to discuss this, but can we limit the type of IA systems that we approve as a board? You know, you would talk about general use, you know, I don't know, you know, we can talk about that. But I still, you know, am concerned about having nothing in place, but I do care about people that, you know, like, let's say a person who, that isn't doing any upgrading, but gets, when I say upgrading, isn't having to build on, that isn't having, or looking to build a new home, but gets stuck having to put in an IA system because of some other reason, like they have a, you know, a cesspool and it failed, it's failed already, and their property is just so very small, they can't, you know, put in a regular conventional system. So they gotta do IA. Even if we say they don't, they're gonna they probably have to do that. So, you know, we're concerned about those people as well. And so I think, yeah, we do.
Thing that I firmly believe in a centralized system and not the IA is because you got plenty of elderly people and young people
Yeah.
who can't afford to have one of these systems installed.
Right.
But if you put in a town-wide system,
right.
it's on your taxes and
Yeah.
you're fine. and
I've
you're
heard
taken
that, I've
care of.
heard though that it is going to be very, I'm for sewer. I agree. I'm not arguing against it. I'm just saying it's gonna take a long time to get that installed. And it also is gonna be very, very expensive, but I would rather go that route.
I have a question for Zach, and maybe you know, you don't. But in real life, not in the testing conditions, how much more efficient are the new systems versus the Title V? Because they do provide some protection, but in theory, they're not as good as the alternative system.
So a conventional septic system versus a cesspool is?
No, not versus a cesspool. Versus, because if we have people with cesspools, it's not that they're gonna build and keep the cesspool, they'll have to do a septic. And if they cannot do a regular septic, they'll have to do a tight tank or you know.
So the general use systems have gone through all the testing, they have the real life data to show that they're hitting on an average, not every time, on an average, they're 19 parts per million with it. These Baird systems are down to 11 parts per million, so that's why people want them. They're getting better treatment, they're getting them out, but I mean, we've designed probably 5 of them already. I haven't seen any test results in real life afterwards, but they're a lot more expensive to install versus this, and then the operation and maintenance of them. I mean, they've tested well, they're up people, we've listened to the person that used to run the testing facility, and he's standing behind it. That's why he's advocating for it in Falmouth, and they're getting down to the 10 parts per million with it. So I mean, I do think that they will work. I do believe that he has a lot of educational background and knowledge from his degrees. He talks at all the conferences that Katie and I go to, so I do think it's going to work, but I just don't know in real life if it's going to hit the 11 parts per million.
So what's the comparison between parts per million of the average, I know it's of a conventional system?
So a conventional system is like 35 parts
Right,
per million.
okay.
Or
So-
35 milligrams. per
So, and
million.
the average general use system is hopefully 19.
Down to 19, but I mean, Michelle can explain that we'll get testing reports, sometimes they're at 40, sometimes they're down.
Yeah.
Their averages, it all
Yeah.
comes down to the time of year when the operator took it.
Okay.
Even comes down to if they're using ammonia to clean, in cleaning products.
Okay.
That's a huge effect on this. And we've had systems that have said that they've been failing, only to find out that they've been pouring bleach down their kitchen sink to clean the drain. And it's been killing everything. Once you tell them that, it's fine. And you get the operation and maintenance procedures behind it. A lot of it too is, we have a lot of seasonal homes in the community here, and you need time for these things to build up the biomass, to get them to work to test, and then next thing you know, you're shutting them off. So there's other concerns with that, with seasonal homes versus year-round homes. So I think all that stuff, I mean, Falmouth regulations have these things kind of put in there, but they give you the ability to go through, do the testing, and work with the agent. A lot of this stuff then has to be explained to the homeowner, like if you're putting one of these systems in, you're buying time with me afterwards, I'm giving you a septic system, but I might have to come back years later to help you get it to test right. I'm gonna have to work with your operator to get it to work right and figure out some of these root causes. So there's a lot of hiccups and stuff, but I have to explain a lot of these things to homeowners up front.
I think we owe it to the public that we learn more and put these things into the regulations before we approve anything.
Absolutely. Zach, are you aware Falmouth has passed a regulation that,
No, they're currently going through it, so they had their first public hearing like you guys last week.
Yeah.
They're scheduled to do it again. I mean, all these concerns are coming up. A big thing is the economic side behind it. I mean, a lot of homes that are passed down generational, and once you find out that you can't do this, or you have a storm event and these systems are going in, and certain people have the means to upgrade them, other people don't have the means, they're gonna be forced to sell the property. So there's a social and economical side that this is gonna affect in the community. So there's a lot of things that we don't know what's gonna happen with these going forwards.
and so, I think we can close the public comment. We've already had our discussion, but if anybody else has
One thing,
anything else, Dusty?
I would like to thank Zach. You've come in a number of times, helped us out explaining things and that's, I'd much rather have you in here for showing the bad points and the good points than taking we'll go with this. I want to thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Very helpful. Appreciate it. We all do. All right, so that having been said, if anybody would like to make a motion to continue this, we have the language there, if you'd like.
All right, let's see. Well, this is going to be different. Yeah, no, I'm looking at this because I'll make a motion to, that we are not to adopt the current regulations, the upgrades as proposed, that we will continue to discuss and research this issue, and not at this time to adopt the upgrades to the IA systems for new buildings and for increases in flow.
And incorporate the concerns that were voiced today.
So I guess that's my clarification. Are you voting, is your motion not to adopt the regulations as proposed, or are you voting to continue the hearing?
Yeah.
Just to clarify.
Well, this is a public hearing, so,
Yep.
Well, we have to move to continue
so we're going to continue the public hearing?
public hearing. This is a
Okay.
public hearing,
Oh,
so,
okay.
yeah.
So we
I
can
thought that-
incorporate these suggestions.
So I move that the Bourne Board of Health will continue the public hearing to, would it be our next meeting? Or you have to advertise? Oh, not if we don't close it, we,
Correct, but if you guys want to do research, I think it will take more than 2 weeks to draft
Right.
regulations, so.
okay.
We'll need to pick a date certain, though, for a public hearing, so. We've got October 8th, October 22nd.
We've also got the town meeting coming up, and they're going to be,
When is that? That's on Monday.
a special town meeting, is it?
That would be the
Will they be
6th, I believe.
voting on anything concerning?
I don't believe, they haven't put the warrant out, so I don't
Okay.
know what's on it, but I don't believe there was planning for
Okay.
anything with CWMP on it.
But Margaret, we have 2 years to get this
Yeah.
done correctly, so we're not in a rush. We just
Right,
need to do it
okay,
well.
well,
So you could push it out to November if you wanted to.
Okay.
The 12th, or
Oh, we only have one meeting.
I would say the 12th or
I
19th.
prefer the later
To
the better.
November
because
12th,
it's quite
2025.
intense, which,
Yes.
November 12th.
that's what I move. So I move that we will continue the public hearing to November 12th, 2025.
Here, at Bourne Community, right at this location,
And a time will be necessary. yeah.
5:30.
At the Bourne Community Building at 5:30 PM.
I second.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, Bob, yes.
I apologize, I didn't understand that. I thought we would continue discussing this just as a board. I didn't know that it would be a continuing as a public hearing, because that could go on and on.
So you can only discuss these regulations as a public hearing.
Okay.
For septic regulations.
Okay. So, next agenda item is another public hearing to propose updated Bourne Board of Health regulations regarding the 150-foot setback distance from the soil absorption system to resource areas pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 111, Section 31, regulation to combine 150-foot setback and hydrogeologic study regulations. So I'll now call to order the public hearing to hold a discussion on the proposed local Board of Health regulation titled Regulation Establishing Septic System Setback Requirements and Hydrogeologic Study Standards, and to receive further public comment on said regulation. This regulation is being proposed in accordance with the board's authority under Mass General Law, Chapter 111, Section 31, and is intended to protect public health and water resources by ensuring adequate separation between septic system leaching facilities and wetlands or watercourses. These amendments combine and update two existing Board of Health regulations, the 150-foot setback regulation and the hydrogeologic study regulation, into a single comprehensive regulation. If changes are needed, the hearing will be continued to a date certain rather than closed tonight. The full text of the proposed regulation has been made available to the public on the Health Department website and at the Health Department office at Town Hall. Written public comments were accepted through Friday, September 5th, but no written public comment was submitted during that time. First, I will recognize the Health Director to briefly summarize the proposed regulation, and then we will open the floor to verbal public comment, including both in-person and remote participants. If you are joining us via Zoom, please use the raise hand function to indicate that you'd like to be heard. We will call on participants in order and ask that you state your name and address for the record before offering your comments. Again, ground rules, we ask that speakers keep comments respectful and concise, avoid interrupting others, and limit initial comments to 3 minutes, time permitting, so that all voices may be heard. After we receive public comment, the board will have the opportunity to ask questions, deliberate, and determine the next steps regarding the regulation. Caitlin will give a brief synopsis of the proposed regulation, and then public comment will be heard. So, Caitlin?
All right, so the purpose of this regulation change tonight is to consolidate and clarify our existing 150-foot setback reg and the hydrogeologic study. This was originally adopted in 1988 and amended in the board in 95. In 95, the amendment became its own regulation somehow, but lacked reference to the original regulation, creating a little bit of ambiguity there. So this proposes to update and recombine these regulations and add in some new definitions. And also Section 1B allows the board to require hydrogeo studies for variances if the system is sited within 100 feet of a wetland or watercourse and no innovative alternative nitrogen-reducing technology is proposed. And then also that hydrogeo studies would not be required if IA technology is included for upgrades, raise, rebuild projects, or increases of flow on developed lots using pressure distribution. Dawn also submitted a suggestion for language revisions in Section 1B, allowing a variance based on documentation from a professional with expertise in groundwater, soil, and geologic materials, or a professional sanitary engineer, instead of calling out a hydrogeologist, since Massachusetts does not credential them. So that's what we're looking at tonight. Any questions from the public first?
Questions from the public, comments?
Oh,
Krasinski.
goody.
Me again.
Approach.
For the record, Zach Basinski, Bracken Engineering. It's under the definition sections. So C for highest surface water, or sorry, B for highest groundwater. Should a line item be added for the groundwater monitoring done by a professional engineer? Because right now you're talking about the USGS monitoring data wells, and then based on the high tides.
Mm-hmm.
We set monitoring wells and use a data logger over a moon high tide cycle. So I think that should just be added into the definitions. And then the other one is under E, any land or surface is so defined by the Massachusetts Wetland Protection. So is this going to include floodplains? Because that is a wetland resource area that's regulated under it, but we may have the separation to an actual nitrogen-sensitive wetland. So like a typical wetland that we show on the plans that's been delineated by a wetland scientist. So those are the resource areas that we're concerned about. You could be in a floodplain, which is a regulated under the Wetlands Protection Act, but it's not a nitrogen receptor or sensitive to nitrogen from a septic system. It looks like a high and dry lot, like you're not near a wetland, but it just happens to be in a floodplain. So nitrogen doesn't affect anything around it. So I think that needs to be clarified. And then the other clarification is coastal banks. So I know there's a lot of discussion on coastal banks. There are coastal banks that sit at the edge of an embayment and stuff, but there are also coastal banks from a floodplain standpoint that are regulated based on the topography of the ground. And I know I've argued it numerous times that we ask for the relief to those types of coastal banks because they're not nitrogen-sensitive receptors. So I think an exclusion that says coastal banks that are defined by 92-1. So I think we could work with staff to kind of delineate that and work with the conservation. Because I think those are two wetland resource areas that kind of confuse everybody because of their names, but they're not nitrogen-sensitive receptors. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else from the public to offer any comment? You know, the Zoom call, Zoom feed? No? Okay. We'll close the public comment there. Any board comments, discussion?
Could you, Zach, go over the suggested amendments? I understand, we got a definition on the different coastal banks, so we understand that. But could you please repeat the other suggestion? You said amend the definition regarding wells. Could you?
Oh, it's the land subject to coastal storm flowage or a floodplain.
Yeah.
So you take all of Patchawisset, there are areas that are up high that are in the middle of the island that they may not need the IA, or there are areas that are further inland. I have one that we argued over on blanking right now, Nye Road, off of Nye Road. It's in the middle of the island. It has a coastal bank from a floodplain, but it's all high and dry land. It looks like a woodland. It doesn't have nitrogen. It's over 150 feet from the actual bay from it. So it's in a floodplain, so just making an understanding or clarification. Does the board want IA septic systems in all of these floodplain areas, even though they might not be subject
So,
to?
and it doesn't come under the
Well,
definition of a wetland?
It is a definition of a wetland.
So
it would fall in here that like, you would want this, but there are certain situations where they're far enough away from over 150 feet, they have conventional septics, now they're going to be forced into putting an IA in because they're in a floodplain. And you want to force them into putting an IA in a floodplain. They might be outside the NSA area, but they still fall within a floodplain. And you want these homeowners to incur this extra cost. So it's semantics on what the terminology is and the definition here.
Okay.
Because I get a lot of personal questions from when people come in and ask, and then I explain. I have had a conventional septic. It's been operating. It passed the Title V. It's great. Then now they go, hey, you're doing your house renovation. Now, okay, now you have to upgrade your new septic that the previous homeowner put in, go into an IA septic system now. And now, why? Why do I have to do that? Well, you fall within a wetland resource area. Well, what's wetland? You're in a floodplain. Well, the wetland that they see as wet is over 150 feet away, but now they're forced into an IA septic system. So I think it just needs, if the board wants to put land subject, that's fine. I just need to explain that to clients. Or if not, you want it, is that what you're looking for in land subject to coastal storm flowage?
Misha, is that feasible to incorporate into these regulations?
Absolutely, we can, under the definition of wetland, we can provide exemptions Me and Margaret did discuss exemptions for non-eroding coastal banks, and the potential for putting that in there. And I believe that the floodplain would be something that we could add to that as well, since you guys already have a regulation that, asks that an applicant provide some protections for systems within flood zones. So it doesn't require IA technology, it's just that they're providing some type of protection from a flood insurgence, so that's already covered under some of your existing regulations.
Any other questions, comments on that? Okay. Thank you again, Zach. Okay, so, with no further discussion from the board.
I would just
Okay.
ask, on that section B, where am I? B1? Look at my notes. 1B, rather. Would the board prefer Don's suggestion for the wording rather than a hydrogeologist?
Yeah, could you repeat that, please?
Yep. So currently it reads, the Board of Health may grant a variance from the 150-foot setback requirement based upon satisfactory documentation prepared by a qualified hydrogeologist or professional sanitary engineer. And Don's suggestion was, the Board of Health may grant a variance from the 150-foot setback requirement based upon satisfactory documentation prepared by a professional with demonstrated expertise in groundwater occurrence, movement, quality, and its interaction with soils and geologic materials, or by a professional sanitary engineer.
Wow, she should be a auctioneer.
Excuse me.
So instead of calling out a hydrogeologist, just saying that someone that shows expertise in groundwater
Because the
qualities.
state doesn't recognize
Correct,
them,
yeah.
so why even have it?
Yep,
We're gonna accept someone, an engineering firm.
yep. So is that wording that you guys would prefer in that instead?
I'd go along with that.
Yeah, I agree with what you're suggesting.
Yeah, I mean, just to give you a little background, I have that as my background, working in the geotechnical environment, and there's nothing wrong with pulling out the word hydrogeologist. It's just about having someone that has expertise
Yeah.
in what we want to specify. That's all that is, because the sanitary professional engineer already come with a stamp. They already come with the professionalism behind that.
Yeah.
Having someone that has this specific expertise is really what we're after by saying the hydrogeologist. Hydrogeologists are professional and very good at what they do, but some of them may not have that expertise we want to see. That's the intent of the language I suggested, that's all.
Do we need to define what constitute that expertise? Or what qualifies a person to be considered an expert in that area?
But there's, yeah, but see what's confusing me is we do not recognize, and the state does not recognize a my tongue twister here, at all. So by putting that on paper and passing it out, now you got people looking for this person, and Joe Blow can walk up, oh, I'm one. What's your credentials? Oh, there are none.
Wow.
Right, so that's what I'm saying, we need
Yeah.
to define what
Yeah,
what
what
constitutes the expertise.
An engineer.
An engineer could be someone, yeah.
But it's
So-
not limited to just engineers.
Right. Who else would be, who else would be qualified?
The point of the matter is that a hydrogeologist is a true professional in the industry. And
Yep.
I'm not trying to denigrate in any way
Right.
their experience, because it's great in the field, as we all know. But I wanted to make sure, and as we talk about it, I'm seeing there's other wisdom that I didn't define it adequately. You know, well, to what level do you have that expertise? How do we define the expertise? I was going to say I would be okay with including the word hydrogeologist, provided they have that expertise in their background, which would be backed up through a dossier, some kind of proof.
Yeah, how would you get that proof?
They would have to provide that, I guess.
So yeah, when they submitted the
The application.
hydrogeo study, they would include like a CV in that study submission.
How often in this town do we utilize one?
Hydrogeo studies, in my time in this office, I have seen 2.
I hope you took a picture of them.
And they all come in very different shapes and sizes. The ones that I've seen in the office since then, so, yeah.
So are we discussing whether to approve this language as it is here? It says a hydrogeologist or a.
So, yeah,
um,
either
san-
that-
Or a professional sanitary engineer, a qualified in other words, are we deciding that, yes, we want to say that, or no?
so you're saying you want,
Or,
I mean, or you could change it altogether. So
I'm tr-
currently, the draft reads by a qualified hydrogeologist or professional sanitary engineer.
okay,
Or taking out hydrogeologist specifically and calling out by a professional with demonstrated expertise in groundwater occurrence, movement, quality, and its interaction with soils and geologic materials, or by a professional sanitary engineer.
Right here in the last page, Margaret. Yes, I agree with that, as long as we define what constitutes such expertise or professional.
Which makes
'Cause, you know,
sense.
I'm a professional in medicine, but that does not qualify me for this.
That's why part
I'll
of my
back you
initial. Apologize, keep going with this. Part of my initial inquiry was just to simply say, is there a state-approved list of hydrogeologists?
okay.
Is there
No.
a way to say what that person is in reference to making a recommendation to the board based on the study that was conducted? So, that's as simple as what this is now evolved into, as a discussion for changing the wording. I'm okay with saying qualified hydrogeologist with that expertise, because then in the application, with their, background, it's gonna be proven that they are qualified to do it.
So yeah,
Because you do want a hydrogeologist influence, provided that they have expertise in it, so that they've done this before, that they know the technology behind it. That's what I was very simply getting to.
And I think your suggestion does have that, as it says, prepared by a professional with demonstrated expertise. So they have to show us that they have that expertise.
Okay.
And that was the intent,
Yeah.
yes.
They will show it to you.
It'll be a part of their submission. So when you guys look it over, you can decide if it's even valid. Or you can have me do that.
But that's my point, like, I wouldn't have criteria
So
to
that
decide
could
if
be-
someone's valid, so, but.
That's something that if it was
we'll do
submitted.
now, and
Yeah.
then we'll have the health agent decide. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean,
If it's submitted
may
to our
you
office.
live a long time, but what happens 100 years from now when you're not here, you know what I mean? So we just need to have that written on paper. That's all I'm saying.
Should we add the word licensed to professional? Or, well, the hydrogeologists are not licensed.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
licensure.
So that's why,
doesn't
I think that's why we
ask.
shied away from,
Yeah.
engineer versus
Yeah.
something like that, or, because, geologists aren't licensed in Massachusetts. They could be licensed in other states, but not here.
Which wouldn't be any good in Massachusetts.
I mean, you could accept it if you wanted to.
Okay.
I don't want to answer that one.
So, okay, any other questions, comments, suggestions? I would recommend.
So
a
question to Ms. Shetner.
Yeah.
So based on the proposed wording, does that tell you what we need to know for the criteria? If the answer is yes, we'll approve it.
Yeah, so they have to demonstrate that they've done work with groundwater before, essentially. And so you could review whatever they submitted as that documentation.
Right, well, I would, my suggestion is that we continue this hearing to a future date. We could do it on the same time as the other one, with the idea that we'll change that wording,
Mhm.
that definition, and also incorporate some of the suggestions that Jack has made, and just, and so we can review the final product at that time and possibly vote on it at that meeting.
So-
At that here.
Yep, so
the
we're looking
extended
for-
part of this hearing, or a future meeting.
So we're looking for changes to the wording that Don suggested, and then exemptions under the wetland definition for both floodplain and non-eroding coastal banks. Those are pretty easy fixes, so I could have them for the next meeting.
Okay.
That would be fun.
So that would be
Yeah.
September 24th. And then I think, Bob, you
Okay, so-
could just,
Let's close this.
you could say that the public
Mm.
hearing is continued. I don't think you need a motion for
Right.
that. You just have to put a date certain in there.
Yeah, thank you once again, Zach, for your comments. And the board will continue this public hearing to September 24th, 2025, 5:30 PM at the Bourne Community Building. And the hearing remains open until that time. Okay, thank you.
Approval of minutes, maybe?
Do we have that group? Are they gonna come for that public comment?
The
No,
the public
they left.
comment portion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know if
Have
they
a
were
good
waiting
night,
to.
Zach.
I told him it might be a little while.
Okay.
Zach's a good man. All right. Okay, moving on to number 6, any public comment on non-agenda items? Public comment.
Public, all right.
Okay. Hearing none, move on to number 7, Health Director's Report, if you have anything, Katie?
I don't think I have anything for you guys today.
Okay.
Oh, one thing.
Oh,
I believe it's officially posted. We posted a part-time position that will work under the health department. It is our implementation coordinator who will be working directly about implementing the opioid strategy selected with the needs assessment and implementation plan. So we just posted that position this past week, so.
it's a
hopefully
part-time
we get
position.
some- Yep,
Yeah.
start out that way, see if we get anybody, so. Mhm.
Okay, great. Number 8, any comments from the board regarding future agenda items? Dusty? Yeah.
Yes, I had a meeting with Phil Goddard a week ago, and we got into quite a lengthy discussion. He has invited the board to take a tour of the dump. They have a bus, I guess, up there and that, but we would, if you decide, I can bring it back to him or yourself.
I think it's a great idea. We've discussed it recently.
Oh,
right?
did you?
Katie brought it up, right? Last meeting or the meeting before that. I think we all should take advantage of it if we possibly can. If not, then,
Well, we'll have certain issues that's gonna be brought before us, they're coming before us. So if you can see what, what they're talking about, I think it would be a great idea. And, so it's up to you when the board, other board
they can do
members.
that and also the alternative septic system site.
Yes.
right, so.
Have we made an appointment with them yet?
They were preparing for some type of Barnstable County open house in general, so they told me to hold for a second, but we'll
Okay.
work on that, yeah,
Okay.
before it gets too cold.
I mean, that might be, hopefully that would be helpful in researching
Yep.
this.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Any-
So I have a comment, but not on a future agenda item, and then
Okay.
I'm just gonna mention for the benefit of the public, from the medical viewpoint, the best time to get your flu shot is late October, early November. That way it lasts the whole season, and you're protected during the holidays when people get together. And, even though I agree with Mr. Kenny about the food additives and so on, I don't agree too much about the vaccines. I don't see what's the science besides those comments, so I can't personally endorse those. So I suggest you get your flu shot. I get questions about the RSV. The RSV is a one-time deal, it's not every year. And, you know, there are certain, I'm not gonna just vomit all the criteria, but you can ask your doctor about the best ages to get that. And the other one that people ask me, and I can't believe that they don't get them, and is the shingles vaccine. Shingles is extremely painful. Get your shingles shots,
Got mine.
Okay.
Got mine.
starting at
I
age
got 'em all.
50. And so I got mine too, and they're every 2 months. They work very well.
Very good, thank you. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Any comments? Okay. All right. Number 9, we have minutes to approve.
Oh, yeah.
So, everybody had a chance to look these over. It's the, approve the minutes from the previous meetings dated May
May
28th, 2025. So this one's been a while in waiting, but we got it. And, does anybody have any? Okay, any motion to approve then?
I move to approve the meeting minutes of May 28th, 2025.
Second that.
Second, okay, Don? Okay, yes. Dusty?
Yes.
Yes, Bob, yes.
You can abstain if you weren't there.
I don't.
That's
Oh, you
happened to
abstained
me
if you
too.
weren't there,
I
right.
said, I can't say one or the other.
Okay. And I believe that's it, right? So, okay. A motion to adjourn, we'll entertain
Make a
that.
motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Miguel.
Second.
Bob seconds, Dusty?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
Bob, yes. Okay, that was a good one. A lot going on. Okay.